Good evening. Let's go ahead and get started. I'd like to call to order the Town of Clarkdale Town Council meeting for Tuesday, February 10th, 2026 at the Clark Memorial Clubhouse. Roll call. Vice Mayor Hunsetter.
Here.
Councilmember Babbitt Pierce.
Present.
Councilmember O'Neill.
Present.
Councilmember Jones.
Present.
And please note Mayor Prudhomme Bauer is here. We do have a quorum. Item 3 on the agenda is public comment. The town council invites the public to provide comment at this time. Members of the town council may not discuss items that are not specifically identified on the agenda. Therefore, action taken as a result of public comment will be limited to directing staff to study the matter, responding to any criticism, or scheduling the matter for further consideration and discussion and decision at a later time. If you're interested in making public comment, and I have 3 already here tonight, you will just get up to the podium, state your name, and each speaker will be limiting your comments to 3 minutes unless a different time is agreed upon or noted on the agenda, agreed upon by the body here or noted on the agenda. So let's begin with Mary Lou Rose. And just push the on button on the mic right there.
Can you hear me now?
If you're Clark, yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
And you have 3 minutes.
Hello, thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Mary Lou Rose and I live in Clarkdale. I'm here to address the recent performance by Embry-Riddle Chancellor John Witcher at the Chino Valley Planning and Zoning meeting on January 20th and his comments about Clarkdale. At that meeting, Chancellor Witcher stated that Embry-Riddle has violated the memo to Clarkdale only twice, and that concerns about flight activity are largely a misunderstanding. He also stated that Embry-Riddle conducted approximately 40,000 touch and go operations in 2025. These statements misrepresent the reality Clarkdale residents live with. I want to be clear, it's not a misunderstanding. I'm asking the council to understand that this is not about annoyance or misunderstanding. It's about ongoing exposure to noise and lead from the leaded fuel from an activity that could be routed differently and handled differently. The claim of only 2 violations appear to refer to flights that occurred before 7 o'clock. It does not account for the repeated failures to follow agreed upon flight paths, including not turning when the aircraft are supposed to, resulting in prolonged low altitude flight directly over our homes. By defining violations this narrowly, Embry-Riddle excludes the very behaviors that residents experience. Even if the 40,000 is correct, which I believe is understated, this represents 40,000 low-altitude training operations using leaded aviation fuel and producing persistent noise. These flights repeatedly pass over Clarkdale neighborhoods, schools, playgrounds, etc. Touch and go training involves repeated power increases and decreases at low altitude. This is when lead emissions are most concentrated. The EPA has stated there is no safe level of lead. And there's multiple studies showing the health effects from noise. At the April 2nd, 2025 Board of Supervisors meeting, while seeking tax-exempt status for its bond, Embry-Riddle submitted a memo to Clarkdale stating a commitment to reduce these impacts. That commitment has not been followed, and it's not reflected in our experience, as repetitive training over the same areas has continued without meaningful reduction. The chancellor also pointed out to his monthly meetings with the mayor as proof of cooperation. If these meetings are anything more than a public relation exercise, we would see results. Instead, it appears the university secured its tax-exempt status by making promises it had no intention of keeping.
Your 3 minutes are up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Carla Erickson.
Carla Erickson, resident of Clarkdale, mayor, council, Susan, Charity. I also want to talk about ERU. I want to bring up my concerns about the training flights. Mayor, I did copy you, the CEO, the COO, the chancellor, the president of Prescott Valley on a letter discussing my concerns about them not meeting their flight information file 25003. When this was first issued, which was back in March 31st, 2025, it's only good for 365 days. This will expire in March, which means they have not fulfilled their obligations of what they have written on paper. I can't hold them to this obligation. I can write them. I really rely on this council to enforce and have Cottonwood enforce what they have written. They also, in the same that Mary Lou, the Board of Supervisors, which we have met with Nikki Check since this letter, explaining they have not met their obligations of their flights over Clarkdale. The impact of these flights have gotten worse. We have more training people over here today. If you didn't notice, we had another flight school that was here. But the main thing is, if we do not hold Embry-Riddle accountable now, we'll never hold them accountable. This was in writing from them. So it's the only piece of paper besides what they've promised to the council to do. The Cottonwood is supposed to be, in partnership with us. It's apparent they are not. I know, Mayor, you've talked with them, you've been to Embry-Riddle. The problem being here, no one's listening and no one's acting, and we are running out of time. This March deadline will kill all of us. And if you have not listened to the Chino Valley, what they're saying, Clarkdale's being under the bus about not moving here, the noise that we have here. It's not a good stand for Clarkdale. This advertising of, not wanting the Chino Valley airstrip, there's 400 more students coming into Embry-Riddle. And if they don't get Chino, I'll tell you where they're coming. And especially if we don't get this flight file met. So I don't know what the next step is, but we better step fast, because if not, we're going to lose. And we're already losing the battle right now if you want to stand outside. So thank you.
Thank you. Kimberly Hillen. Welcome, Kimberly. 3 minutes.
Thank you. I do have some photos for reference.
Okay.
I am here to talk about the public town areas that have been left in disarray. The photos that I've provided, you can see in number 1, that is an area of proper drainage. It has been meticulously maintained. That is an example of what I think all of our drainage areas adjacent to the properties in historic district should look like. 2 through 4 show the drainage areas in disarray. And these are just photos that I snapped while I was walking my daughter to school. I live at 1303 Main Street, by the way. So these are all from around where I live personally and throughout the historic district. 5 through 7 show overgrown weeds in alleyways. These things are not just an eyesore for people who live here, who maintain their properties well, who spend good money as tourists in the area. They're also a fire hazard. You can see in one of the photos there is a telephone pole that's right off the corner of my property. And it's been overgrown with weeds, and we've pulled them, we've ripped them out, we've, done everything that we could do about it, but it just keeps coming back and the town's not addressing it. Our homeowners here in the historic district have very high pride of ownership. And you can see just from the 4 years that I've lived in Clarkdale, it's been really amazing to see a lot of the changes in the properties. And I think that they look better than they have since I've lived here. And I think that the town should put just a little bit of effort into cleaning those areas up, maybe fixing the drainage areas, relaying some gravel. I think that those areas should mirror the pride of ownership that people take in the homes that are adjacent to them. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead.
So if you could just make sure if your phone number and email are not on your card, I would like to follow up with you.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm going to need to look at each specific location on GIS because our town code does give the responsibility for all the way to the road in front of your house and beside your house, as well in the alley to the homeowner. It's
Okay.
their responsibility to maintain these areas. It's hard for me in these photos to determine where that is.
Of course, that makes sense.
And where the property line is, but generally speaking, I think that's probably the biggest misnomer that I see and misunderstanding
Yes.
is that when you see something like this where the grass is right up against the fence, most likely that is an area that is the homeowner responsibility.
Within property line.
Well, it's, the code actually reads if you're, I think a lot of people misunderstand that strip that's on the other side of the sidewalk between the sidewalk and the street.
Correct.
That is homeowner responsibility. The code reads that all the way
Okay.
to the street is the property owner's responsibility.
Okay, so we
So-
personally would be allowed to maintain that and it wouldn't have any impact on us with liability or anything like that with the town?
Actually, the
Okay.
code is written that it is the homeowner's responsibility. Some of these are a little bit hard for me to tell, like what
Yeah,
the
where they-
orientation is, but
Mhm.
I'm happy to get with you and look at each one individually.
Okay.
But what I'm kind of seeing appears to be what would normally be a homeowner responsibility, but we can look at them in depth, okay?
Yeah, I would appreciate that. Thank
Sure.
you.
Right.
One last question real quick. The, on the other side of the sidewalk, so you have the homeowner's property with the fence line sidewalk and then beyond, I'm assuming, is that homeowner as well?
Well, the way the code read is from the home to the road is the
Okay.
homeowner's responsibility.
Okay,
So
And that would include
regardless of where
that.
the
that would
sidewalk
include the
is.
sidewalk too?
Yeah.
Okay, so the sidewalk is not maintained by the town?
No, we do maintain sidewalks.
Okay,
Yeah, so if you ever have one, we have a certain amount of money every year and we try to do the worst ones because, in an older community, they're pretty bad.
then falls.
So we're constantly chasing sidewalks. So if you have one that's
Okay,
needs repair, please submit that to us. But yes, the vegetation, weeds, that type of
Yes.
thing is homeowner responsibility.
okay.
Okay?
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Kim,
There.
could you please put your email on here? We have your phone number, but if you had your email, that would be helpful. Thank you. Okay. Is there anybody in the audience who wishes to make public comment or anybody online? Charity, is there anybody online wishing to? Okay. I see nobody else coming up to the microphone. Thank you all for your public comments tonight. And let's move on to reports, which is current events. In the packet that is online is all the current events that's submitted electronically from the mayor, vice mayor, and council members, organizational reports, Verde Valley Transportation Planning Organization, Marnie.
We meet tomorrow morning.
Okay, that's right, we are. NACOG, Northern Arizona Council of Governments.
Executive Committee just had a work session today up in Flagstaff prior to this meeting. And we discussed a lot of things during our time together. But one thing that I wanted to bring up to council, we did get a presentation from Jamie Sullivan, who's the director of the National Center for Rural Road Safety. And they're putting together they already have a road safety champion training program, and they're putting one together specifically for elected officials. And the question was asked, it's going to be coming up this year, and whether we'd want it in the spring or the fall. And pretty much the consensus was the fall, because we have a lot of stuff with budget and strategic planning and that already in the spring. So it'll be free. Each module, they're looking to do about between 5 and 6 modules for elected officials. And each one would be about an hour and a half. So it'll be a time commitment, but you come away with a certificate and a greater understanding of road safety. So something to in the future. Other than that, it was a great session, and we meet again next week for regional council.
Thank you. Northern Arizona Municipal Water Users Association, Lisa.
Yes, we have been, actually, it's the Technical Advisory Committee that has been meeting and I've been sitting in on because of all the new proposed bills that affect water distribution. And I know that Town Manager Guthrie is going to cover some of them, so we don't need to, but it's constant, so.
Yes, it is. TPAC, Transportation Policy Advisory Council.
We meet on Thursday, but most of our conversation will center around the Rural Transportation Advisory Council. Executive Director is stepping down. And so TPAC does not necessarily have a seat at the table, but a number of our members do in hiring that new Executive Director. So we're going to have a really good conversation about what people think the role of that role is, and then what we need for somebody in that role, because the bills have not passed the last couple of years, and that has a lot to do with how the legislature is functioning, but we certainly need someone who is a really, really good advocate for rural transportation if we want any shot at those RTAC bills getting through the legislature.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Verde Front Leadership Council is meeting next Tuesday, February 17th. There's the All Partners meeting and then the council meeting. So it's going to be a full day for me on that one. Sustaining Flows Committee, Laura. Okay, March 2nd. Yavapai Communities for Young Children.
Yes, we met last week and decided on our new strategic initiative, which is increasing insurance enrollment for children under the age of 5 in Yavapai County. We work through collective, what's it called? Thank you. Collective impact model. Thank you, Town Manager. And so the next step will be getting members of the work group together. And so if anybody has any suggestions for people who work with insurance or children under 5, I would take those. Thank you.
Great, thank you. The vulnerable road users.
We have not met.
Okay. NACA Community Action Board.
We meet on Thursday.
Okay. And the Yavapai County Water Resources Open Space Committees. The next meeting is going to be March 31, and it's going to be here in the Verde Valley. They're going to alternate back and forth on that one. Okay, consent agenda. There are 4 items on consent tonight. Approval of the minutes, call of the election for primary and general, and we're going to poll this one for some updates on that. Dedication of the Shiloh Trail water line extension and budget transfer for personnel costs. So any of the other items do we need to poll for discussion? Okay. So I'll take a motion on items C, D, and E, A, C, and D, if I could, please.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve the consent agenda items A, C, and D as written.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Councilmember Babbitt Pierce to approve consent agenda items A, C, and D as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Call of the election, primary and general. This is basically to approve the dates, and we have a date change. So I'll turn this over to Town Clerk Charity Brooks to explain what's going on.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and Council. So this is being brought before you, as you may have heard, that on February 6th, Arizona Governor Katie Hobbs signed into law that the primary election date is going to permanently change to the second to the last Tuesday in July. So this year it will fall on July 21st of 2026. So that therefore bumps up our election date by 2 weeks. Due to that change, there's also a few other date changes that follows as well. So anybody that has pulled a packet to run as a candidate in the town of Clarkdale, your dates to file your nomination papers have also changed. So the first date to file your nomination paper would be after 8 a.m. on February 23rd, and then or before 5 p.m. on March 23rd. So that is the time frame to file your nomination papers with me, town clerk. A few other date changes would be the last day for a write-in candidate to file would be on May 22nd of this year. The last day to register to vote will be June 22nd, and this is only for the primary, not for the general. Early voting will begin on June 24th, and then the last day to request an early ballot will be July 10th. So those are the major date changes for this election, and other than that, I am looking for a motion.
And this is primary dates are changing. This is the permanent change of our primary date to that second to the last Tuesday in July.
That is correct.
And Mayor, I did want to add that all of that information will be in the e-newsletter this week. So if you're not receiving our town e-newsletter, please put your email address on a piece of paper and hand it to Charity and we'll add you, but we'll have all of those dates listed there, particularly like the deadline to register to vote.
And if I can also add, dates for political signs will also move up by 2 weeks as well.
Gotcha. Thank you. Any questions for Charity on this? Okay. If not, I'll take a motion on item B on the consent agenda.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve consent agenda item B
As amended.
as amended.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Babette Pierce and second by Councilmember O'Neill to approve item B on the consent agenda, call of the election as amended. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you so much. Okay, let's move on to new business. Our first new business tonight is a presentation from Northern Arizona Alzheimer's Association. Melina, come on up, state your name and who you're associated with. And I believe we have a PowerPoint and we have about 5 minutes on this.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, Council, and staff. Again, my name is Melina Peraza, and I'm with the Alzheimer's Association. Though we are a global nonprofit, our office is in Prescott, and I wanted to bring awareness not only to you, but also those that are listening for the public health issue that we are facing in the state of Arizona. So if you can go ahead and play that. As you can see, those are some pretty staggering statistics, and the numbers will only increase year after year. Unfortunately, Arizona remains the #1 state in the country with the highest reported cases of Alzheimer's. That's why I say it's a public health issue. So let me explain a little bit about the work that we do. So we are the leading organization in global research. We have research going in over 6 continents. We also provide education and support driving risk reduction. And we also do advocacy as well. Next, please. So I know it gets a little confusing when we think about dementia and Alzheimer's. Just think of that visual in front of you, that umbrella. When we say dementia, there are so many different forms. And the top one there that has Alzheimer's is the most common or the most popular one that people are familiar with, but there are over 200 kinds of dementia. Next, please. So what is Alzheimer's? It's a brain disease. It progresses over time and it affects memory, thinking, and behavior. And I have a sneaky suspicion, unfortunately, that some of you in this room know somebody that's been impacted with Alzheimer's and can relate to symptoms or patterns that I'm describing. And it's a disease that will progress from 8 to 10 years. There's a early, middle, and late stage. And eventually individuals will need help and care. And we have to remember that there is no cure. We're trying to raise money for funds to find a cure because this disease is fatal. Next, please. So I know there's a lot of numbers on here as well, but I want us to think about the impact on the workforce. For somebody that is working, it could impact your employers. We take a look at the top right, 18% of caregivers went from full-time to part-time. 9% had to quit their jobs. In the middle on the left, 57% were either late to work or had to leave early to care for somebody. So there's just an impact, and I am testimony to that as well. When we look at the lower left, it says 1/4 of people are in that sandwich generation. I was caring for my mom while caring for my children until she passed away. And although it's this disease, it impacts everyone. We consider it a woman's disease. More women are impacted. Next, please. So brain health, I want everybody to leave with a little bit of hope here. I don't want to come in here and just say we've got to look out, but we do have to take care of ourselves. Brain health is vital. In a nutshell, what's good for the heart is good for the brain. It's never too late to begin brain exercises and all of the impacts that we can do to reduce or eliminate cognitive decline, and that's through educational presentations that we can do. Next, please. So making a difference, our community, I want to share again what we do more in a detailed on next slide. We have a 24/7 helpline, and the funds that I raise, I used to do the walk to end Alzheimer's here, actually in Cottonwood, and it would help support our 27 helpline. These are master trained clinicians that are there to answer the phone if somebody has a new diagnosis, somebody needs to just talk confidentially or just cry or get resources. That is what that line is for. We also offer free educational presentations, and we have free support groups, which I brought with me, and Charity, if I may leave them with you, along with our 24/7 helpline. Next, please. How you can help. I look around and I see a vibrant, passionate, active council. I've been listening to what you have on your agenda, and I ask that you bring awareness to what we do, the resources that we have. We're in Prescott, but I also want to be able to trust that as business leaders, you will let people know that we are here. And just as I drove into this town, I thought, what a beautiful gem of a town this is. People need to know that we're here. So that's what you can do as a business, and also support the fundraiser, the Walk to End Alzheimer's, that will be held in October in Cottonwood. So this is simply our vision, is we want to live in a world without Alzheimer's and other forms of dementia. That's the goal. I always want to say I want to work my way out of a job. Thank you for your time.
You're welcome. Thank you so much, Melina. If you have any information you can send to our town manager, that can go in our, like a flyer or something can go in our weekly update. Okay, on any events coming up or any information you want us to share with our community. Okay, thank you so much for coming tonight. Let's move on to item 6B, update from the Verde Valley Fire District. Welcome, Fire Chief Danny Johnson. It's been a while, way too long. Yeah.
I'm glad you missed me though.
Yeah, we miss you.
Mayor, council, and staff, I appreciate for having me out again tonight to do my annual update on the Verde Valley Fire District and the things that we're working on. Thank you. So just to update on our leadership, we have our board chair for this is Colleen Gilboy, and I have a couple of my board members here tonight, Robert Brummett and Don Peck here to listen to what we talk about and provide support as well. And then a couple of my board members couldn't be here tonight. And then obviously I still get to have the honor to be the fire chief. So excited about that. So when we go into the next slide, some statistics about 2025. For the fourth year in a row, we were awarded the GFOA Distinguished Budget Award. And for the second year in a row, we were awarded the CFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. That's a huge thing. It does us well. It does us well for a couple reasons, because we also were able to pass a bond this past year at 74.2%, which was the highest support in the state for fire district bonds. So we appreciate that. We appreciate your support, and we couldn't have done it without you. But why those two awards at the top are important, we're in the process of meeting with the bond agencies and the credit agencies, S&P, and looking at that stuff. And just to give you a highlight of what we're doing, when we met with the S&P rating for our interview, they made the statement that they haven't seen a fire district budget presentation like that in all their time to do it. So our staff is doing amazing work, and it's being recognized with people on a national level. So
We had a clean audit. I'll give you a high five for yours.
nice. Clean audits all the way around. I never thought it'd be high-fiving for clean audits, but we'll just meet there. How's that? So just for some statistics, we responded to 3,518 calls, an increase of 120 from calls from the year before. 736 of those calls came out of our Clarkdale station here. Across the entire Verde Valley region, we transported 2,350 transports to the various hospitals this past year. And we had 273 calls for some sort of fire across our district. Just some other things for thought. Verde Valley and Copper Canyon had crews deployed for over 2 months this past wildfire season together, and being able to go out as shared resources. We were able to get our trucks out and help on the Dragon Bravo fire. We were in New Mexico for a little while. We were over on the Prescott side for a small fire. But we're working well together and be able to get our resources out, because it does bring a little revenue back to the district when we can get our trucks out. So that was a good thing. We finalized the regional community risk reduction agreement between Verde Valley, Copper Canyon, and Sedona Fire District. So our fire marshals, our fire inspectors can work seamlessly across the lines for the districts, and continuing to just build a stronger fire service and a community risk reduction model, and standardizing codes and standardizing fees and all that stuff. So our contractors have the same experience across the entire region.
Right.
We also did complete the second year of a shared chief agreement with Copper Canyon, and we're doing well. We're doing well, but we'll talk about that here coming up. Next slide, please. So where are we going? In 2026. These are some things we have planned, obviously. We're beginning the planning, design, and construction of the Clarkdale station. Right now, we're in research. We're kind of hot mapping or heat mapping where our call volume is. We're looking at things like access, property availability. We're looking at all the different things to where we can deploy this resource most efficiently for the entire region here. So we'll hopefully have more of that coming up in the meetings, and we'll be back. We'll be back sooner than a year, because there's a lot of stuff we need to talk about, because this is the fire station for our community here. So we are planning on beginning to sell the first bonds in the spring of 26. So the resolution for the first bond sale is on our February agenda at our fire board meeting. And we will be hopefully have those sold in the spring. And because of the credit rating that we're expecting to get with the way we approach our finances, we're actually anticipating getting a lower interest rate than what was presented in a lot of our bond sale presentations.
Good.
So we are looking at also taking delivery of a new fire engine that will be here in Clarkdale to replace the one that we've had. So there's a lot of exciting things happening in our community for Verde Valley. We'll also continue the research and design of the regional communication system. I know we've all been in meetings for that, and we're continuing to dive into that and look at the communications that will be the most cost effective across the board. I see Chief over there. He's paying attention, and we're at a lot of those meetings together when we talk about communications and making sure that we can work together. We were able to hire and fill a new fire inspector role. You'll start seeing him come around. He's got a ton of experience that he's bringing to that position, so we're excited about that. We're looking at finalizing a new memorandum of understanding with the Verde Valley Firefighters Local for this next year. And the big thing right now, as you guys are all aware, is continued legislative advocacy for fire districts and our firefighters. I still sit as the president for the Arizona Fire District Association, and we are deep in the legislative session. There are a couple that I want to talk to you about tonight. Just so you understand, this legislative session, there are 106 bills that have been dropped that affect fire districts. I'm sure you guys are seeing the same. The ones that we're really watching, there is a tremendous amount of tax exemption bills, and trying to understand them all and how the effects of them is where we're challenged. But we know that there's a few that if they do go through, we're estimating about 60% of the fire stations in rural Arizona outside of municipalities will be shut down. And it's catastrophic. So I have submitted a letter as the president of the Arizona Fire District Association to every member of the House and the members of the Senate explaining that. And it was good. We got good feedback, and they didn't understand the full ramifications of that. We're not out of the woodworks yet because the legislation's still in session, but we're working through that.
I hope that the state fire district organization works closely with both county and the League of Cities and Towns, because we're facing very much similar, same kind of legislation that if it gets passed, it'll be catastrophic.
Yes, I've had a few meetings already with both of our county supervisors in this area to make sure they're aware of that. Our lobbyists are meeting with the league and talk. There's another issue that we'll talk about here in a second that we're working with the league on as well. So yeah, we're very aware. We also understand, like we've talked about before, that fire district funding models are broken. They're old, they're antiquated, they don't truly represent what a fire district does anymore. The fact that our response is solely funded on the backs of our property owners in Clarkdale, in Cornville, Verde Villages, but yet we have close to 3 million visitors that come through this area a year that we respond to. There's an inequity in that system, and we're trying to continue to work to educate on that. So we're making small headway. We just need some legislators to step up and say, all right, it's time to fix this and share the burden. So we're working through that. The other one that we're talking about is the Firefighter Cancer Fund. There's a municipal cancer fund that was created about 5 years ago. And that, as I've talked before in some of my presentations, the cancer rates in firefighters is through the roof. It's the #1 killer right now of firefighters in the US and actually around the world. And when cancer presumptive laws went into place, they realized there was going to be an economical impact on those cancer claims and being able to cover those in industrial insurance and the towns and stuff like that. When that went into place, there was a municipal fund that was created through one-time appropriations, and then municipalities paid into it every year after that. Fire district firefighters were left out of that fund. So our fire district firefighters don't get the same coverage that a municipal firefighter gets for their cancer claims. The interesting thing that we're working through, and we're trying to work through that, but here's the interesting thing that as we're looking, and this is where we're working with the league on. The town of Clarkdale, over the past 4 years, has paid $60,165 into that cancer municipal fund for municipal firefighters, and the firefighters that serve this town don't get to touch it. So there's an inequity there as well. That we're starting to look at writing legislation this legislative session, where I know we're up against a time front. We had a stakeholders meeting last Friday that I was a part of, and we're looking at all those to try and get our firefighters covered like a firefighter that works for a city. Just for clarity, Camp Verde paid $154,000, Sedona paid $125,000, and none of those towns have their municipal firefighters. They're all covered by fire districts. So I'm not only speaking on behalf of our communities here when I'm in those stakeholder meetings, but I'm also just speaking on behalf of fire district firefighters around the state. They deserve the same type of coverage that a firefighter that works for a municipality is. So if there comes a time where we need some support or some letters of support, I'll be sure to reach out to you or to you. And I met with Marie yesterday from Camp Verde, and she has this information as well. And I can send you a spreadsheet that I have that breaks out the risk pool and the funding levels that it is. And I think yours is paid through the Arizona Municipal Risk Pool. Your funding portion is paid through that. So that's one of the things that we're trying to fix this legislative session. So that was very long. Sorry about all the legislative talk. So where else are we going to go this year? There's been a lot of conversation. There's been news articles, and there's been things that my fire board and my firefighters and myself and staff have been researching for the past 18 months about what this fire service looks like in this region and how we can best use those dollars. We've ran down every rabbit hole, and we're going to talk through some of those tonight. We've run down every scenario, and we're going to really look at what's the direction and where do we want to go. And one of the requests at our first public meeting was is coming out to the public and getting this information in front of the councils. And so you guys are fortunate. This is the first of many presentations that I'll be doing over the next month to take this information that our staff has been working hard, that our board has been contemplating to the different leadership in the area. I've met with the new chairman for the Yavapai Apache tribe and talked through this with him. I've had meetings with Dee Jenkins and Nikki Check and shared this information with them. And I have other meetings here scheduled. So I want to make sure that we understand that this whole concept is not about are we doing well? Because we are. This concept is really about, is our organizational design keeping pace with the increased risk, and then the increased risk and the increase of the changes in our modern emergency system. So that's really what we're looking at. So if you can go to the next slide. So when we talk about JPA or Fire Authority, I want to make sure that we're understanding what that is and what that means. So a JPA is a partnership model that combines leadership, emergency response, coordination, and administrative functions while each fire district stays intact, right? It's both fire districts stay intact. We have to do that for multiple reasons. One, because of the bond. Two, because their tax rates are different. So it's both fire districts are staying intact. They just won't have anything but a process to collect the taxes and then on the authority for the operation. So I had the opportunity to sit with a fire chief in the Pacific Northwest that's done 13 of these and really pick his brain for a day. And really the thing that he said is a successful JPA is about that three-legged stool. It's about making sure the finances work. It's making sure it's operationally functional, and then making sure the politics work. This meeting is about the politics, right? These meetings are about the politics. I can show all day long. I've got hundreds of pages of documents on finances and operations, but we need you to know what we're looking at. And so you're educated when my boards have to make a decision here very soon. So the other thing I want to make sure is this isn't a rescue plan. I've been the chief of Copper Canyon now for 2 years, as well as the chief of Verde Valley now, almost 5 in a couple of weeks. So both districts are doing well. Verde's a little further ahead. They've had me 3 years longer. But the district itself, when I took it over, if you remember, they were $2.3 million in debt. The board has done an amazing job. I think there's a board member for Copper Canyon listening on here tonight. The board and the staff, we've worked really hard, and we've made that a viable district. So I want to make sure you understand this isn't a rescue plan. This is more about a design plan, right? Are we making a design that works for our communities? So when I talk through this, really the three things when I talk about this potential JPA and Fire Authority is same team, same dollars, but a better design. And we're going to talk through that next. So when I talk about same team, sorry, my eyes are getting bad like my back. We're already responding well today. The firefighters that we have on the trucks are doing an amazing job. What this does and how the community benefits from this is it strengthens consistency and depth between the shifts, between the stations, and between jurisdictions. What we look at is standardizing operations. And when you have operational consistency across a broader area, there's a safety factor that goes into effect. There's an efficiency factor that goes into effect for our firefighters, and then our community should see the benefit of that. The other thing that we're looking at is this JPA supports the unified prevention, right? We talked about that, what we're doing with Sedona and with Copper Canyon and with Verde Valley already. This continues to strengthen that model and looks at continue to do that. We'll talk about why that's important here. So those first two things, we have safer firefighters, we have a stronger response system. And you probably think, well, how does the community benefit for a stronger response system? Being able to take the logistics of 6 stations and be able to strategically move them as calls and as major incidents take place, it gives us much more flexibility to move those resources a little quicker, almost automate it in our run cards. The other thing that it allows us to do is when you have a 3-station department and you have new firefighters, which we're getting a lot of them, we have a lot of retirees, we're having a very energetic young group come in, and we need to train them or else they get bored, right? And bored firefighters is a dangerous thing. So we need to get them out and we need to get them trained. So what this allows us to do is we do have the regional training facility over by the airport. We don't fly planes over there. But we do train over there, and it helps us being able to take a crew out of service and shift those 5 stations around to allow them to be okay, right? To allow them to do the training that they need to do. So this process really helps us train our firefighters to that better standard. The other thing that we look at with those trainings is our ISO rating. Our ISO rating for both districts is a 310, right? A 310 is a split rating because we have areas inside the districts that don't have fire hydrants, right? That's why we have the 10 rating. We have the 3 rating for the areas that are hydranted. But we're barely a 310. Right, we're right on the cusp. We have to work very hard to keep that 310. And that's based on ISO. That's about the best we're going to get with the way our water system and hydrants are laid out. But the training aspect, the able to take the prevention side of it and boost our pre-plans, boost all of those operations, continue to add up those little points that make us a solid 310, right? Instead of one on the border of going to a 410. And that affects the insurance prices for a lot of our residents. So you can go to the next slide. When I talk about same dollars, I want to talk about cost avoidance. Both districts are running very efficiently. There is not a lot of waste or fluff. We have to be extremely, extremely tight with our dollars because if you understood, I talked about the funding challenges that we're up against already. We don't have a lot of leeway. We don't. And so when I talk about cost avoidance, it's adding those areas of duplication, eliminating those areas of duplication and adding some positions that we're missing simply because of our size, right? So we're avoiding costs by doing this because we're adding positions in that neither district could really fund on their own without raising any sort of mill rates. So we're adding those positions and avoiding the cost of bringing those in. So when I talk about that, we're talking about consolidating leadership and we're consolidating administrative functions. We're not removing any firefighters out of the streets. We're not reducing services anywhere. We're increasing our service to our firefighters and we're increasing our service in our administration. So that's really what we're looking at because when we look at these positions, dedicated HR is such an important position in today's, and it's a part-time secondary duty for many of our administrations. We're looking at dedicated finance for the entire thing where we can just have a really strategic finance and leverage my amazing finance manager in this bigger model. We've run multiple scenarios on what a potential budget to look like. Obviously something this size, the budgeting process, as you guys are very aware, is a long process and there's a lot of unknowns. But with the knowns that we have, we're running anywhere from $191,000 surplus to $202,000 over budget, which is about a 1% variance on a very rough budget. we don't even recognize yet, we won't get that till we do a full budget process, the full efficiencies that we can get from a formal budgeting process. We're talking like renegotiating contracts, or health insurance, renegotiating all of those big ticket items, duplication of programs, that as we can get a little bit a bigger economy of scale, we're going to pick things up here and there. So as a very high level first pass, we're really close. So I can make this work financially. You can go to the next one. So when I talk about better design, we're looking at all three of the areas. We're talking about our operations, we're talking about our administration, and we're talking about our services. One thing that I'm excited about is, as you guys are very aware, when we have a major incident, very rarely is it isolated to one community. And it's hard for me to be at all the EOCs at once. By adding these other operations level chief officers, we can hit more of the EOC coordination across the entire region and have a very dedicated person to each EOC. If Camp Verde's got something going on, or if we got something on the highway, we got something over here, we can hit all of those across the board because the water starts here, right? So when we have those issues, we can really hit those. The assistant chief of operations will be somebody position that we want to add, and that would be provided dedicated oversight daily to our ops, right? As a fire district chief, you have many roles that a municipal chief doesn't have. I have to do my own HR. We have to do our own finance. We have to do all those things. So I can't just solely focus on ops, but by having that other person come alongside me, we can have a dedicated person to look at ops and train our firefighters to the new standard. So we also would bring in a training chief that would work under the ops chief. And there's a lot that goes into training in our areas. For those that don't know, we have special training for paramedic. We have special training for our hazmat techs. We have special training for our technical rescue techs that do water and ropes training. We have special training for all of our paramedics. And then on top of just our annual training that we have to do. And right now that position is managed as a secondary duty from a responding battalion chief. So busy days, that gets no attention. So it's just when I'm talking about a better design, we can have that constant focus on that. The other thing that's nice is currently today, it's very hard for a brand new firefighter to come into the organization and say, I see a pathway for me to be the chief. We don't have that. Because those positions, those mid-level positions, you have to go outside the organization to get that training and maybe hope for a chance to come back. I think that that's a good thing to have a new firefighter as far as a retention tool to be able to say, there's a path for me to be the fire chief, right? And that's a good thing. So when I talk about the administration, we talked a little bit about it already, the HR functions, the finance functions, all those payroll functions they're secondary duties right now, and they'll be dedicated. The other thing that we're looking at is obviously with 56-hour personnel, members that are on the fire truck that have those administrative duties, we do open ourselves up for some FLSA exposure. Because if we don't capture everything they're doing on their days off, there's hefty fines that go with making sure that dollar is compensated for work they do on their days off. And it's very hard. And this system, the way this new organizational chart really eliminates some of our FLSA exposure. The other things, I want to make sure I'm getting all my notes here. So with that, you can go to the next slide. So kind of in closing, I want to just make sure that this is about long-term stewardship of our dollars and long-term stewardship of our firefighters as well, because they're the ones that protect the community. And if I don't do a good job of taking care of them, I'm a firm believer that trickles down to the community and they don't take care of our community. So the same crews are still going to respond, right? We're not changing our response. The crews are going to stay in there. We're not reducing that. The same communities are going to be served. One of the questions that I've had, and I didn't put up there questions and answers, so I'll let you ask your own questions, but one of the concerns, and we looked for concerns, one of the concerns was community engagement. Can we still stay as engaged as we are in our communities? And the answer is yeah. The answer is absolutely yes. We don't plan on missing any of the activities that we get to do at the park annually here. I think we can actually maybe attend more, because if I have more staff and I have more people that we can hit all these grand openings and ribbon cuttings, and just right now the schedules just overlap. So I believe that's a valid concern, but I believe that when we plan this out, we can do that even better. And it's the same dollars. It's stewardship of a dollars, just with more intentional design. That's a lot. What questions do you have?
Questions for Danny? Go ahead.
Danny, this all sounds fantastic. Are there any potential downsides?
Yes, there are. There's always potential downsides with fire districts. The downsides are any of the legislation that goes through. We really have to look at this hard. What I'll tell you is, in my position with the Fire District Association, I get to look at all 144 fire districts around the state. And when you look at the top 12 fire districts in the state of Arizona that are the most stable outside of Sedona, because they're an anomaly, all of those fire districts are the product of either a merger, consolidation, or a JPA. The model across the state has proven to be very solid. And it's the best way that fire districts are proving their stability moving across. If there is some sort of economic downturn that hurts us, a bigger organization allows us to soften the blow and absorb it and spread it across a bigger pie. So yeah, there's always downs. I am always like, when I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning, I'm thinking about what's happening in fire district state of Arizona. So yeah, that is one of the downfalls.
Any other questions for Danny? I think, make sure you get the presentation to us so that maybe we can look at it all. Charity has it. Okay. Just make sure you're sharing it with us, because I think, we have to look through it some more, and there's some more conversations hopefully before your board signs off on the JPA.
Just to understand the timeline, right?
Sure.
What this would happen is, right now I'm doing the community presentations.
Right.
They asked me to do the news article, which I did a couple weeks ago. There was
Right.
a paper. And so I'm meeting with different organizations and gathering that feedback. So
Okay.
once you see this, and if you have questions, you've got my email, you got my phone, you can give me a call. So what we're looking at is, what we're hoping to do is sometime in April-ish, is have the board say, this is a good idea. We've seen the operations, we've seen the finances, you've been doing the politics, start building it. And it's going to take us a year to build.
Yeah.
Right. So what we're saying is do we have enough information? And for my boards to say, we like it, start building it with an adoption of July 1 of 27 would be the earliest. So we want to try to keep it fiscal years. Or trying to build something like this mid-fiscal year would be a nightmare. So that will give us a year to build it, because there's a lot we have to do.
Right, right. I think the important part here for all of us is that we're kept abreast of what's happening and involved in that, and post questions to us. What do you think about this? I say that to the fire board, we don't bite in Clarkdale. We like to have community discussions and dialogues if things come up. I'm very excited of the work you've done so far on the JPA, because I know there was a concern when we all met. What was that?
18 months ago.
About 18 months ago. Oh my gosh. When we started this discussion, but it's come a long way. You've done a lot of work. You've got 2 stable organizations now, which is kudos on that, because I know what you walked into on Copper Canyon. So it's great to see the stability of both organizations. I think it's a decent model. You're making a strong case for that. I think we need to think about it more of that, and how our community is going to see all of this play out. And any information we can share with our community and get feedback to you, I think is going to be important. If you want to host something here, let's do it. I think that would be really good.
Yeah, I got this out in the paper. We've done a lot to get this information out.
Right.
One of our, it's been on every agenda for a board meeting for our past year.
Gotcha.
And we're having a lot of dialogue, and people are welcome to come to our meetings. A lot of times in this small town, a lot of our meetings are in conflict, which is why it's sometimes hard for me to get on certain nights here. But I still think that the information is there and we can get it out and we can have more dialogue and I can come meet in your office like we do before.
Maybe we do an open house. We might consider doing a community open house just to have, the casual discussions, walk around, especially as a location becomes more ready for a new fire station in Clarkdale. I think, it depends on timing. I know your
Yeah.
timing might not be quite right, but, things like that, we've had good success with community open houses on this. And I think this is a
Mhm.
big enough sort of, not real change, but a little bit of change
Yeah.
to be able to talk about what this means to our
Yeah.
community.
And I think maybe then a good time would do that is I will be coming back hopefully very soon to talk through potential station locations.
Yes.
And talk through some of that stuff and kind of understand
The why and where,
Yeah,
why,
just
yeah.
kind of give you the discussion and the research behind it. It's still too new and I don't want to put any speculation out there, but that will be coming soon.
Yeah, and I hope that, that I know you're probably having discussions with our town manager about this or should be, because she's had a lot of experience
Oh,
in
yeah.
this area.
Yeah, no, she knows the fire service and that's a blessing. So
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
been having conversations. I've got another one for the Camp Verde Town Council, first week
Okay.
of March. I got another one in Beaver Creek Community Association going on. I'm trying to get on countywide again to talk about it there. So
Good,
we're making
good.
sure we're covering our bases. Making people hear the information is hard, but making it available is our job, and we're doing that.
Exactly. Other questions for Danny?
Got a quick one. It might be tricky. Who are the opposers and what are they saying?
So here's where we're at with the opposers. I have not had many people in the community so far from elected officials or even people that I've talked to say it doesn't make sense. They all really say it makes sense. Some of the issues that we're having to navigate are legacy kingdoms, right? Where this is mine and we don't want to do
Yeah.
anything with it. And I think and here's the thing, I can have a lot of respect for pride in your community, pride in your town. I think you guys have pride in your town. I think Camp Verde has pride in their town. I think Rimrock has pride in their town. I think Cornville has pride in their town because I go to all those meetings. But I think the service and the people that are ingrained in those towns are not changing.
Yeah.
Our intentional attendance on a lot of their events are not changing. The only thing that's changing is managing the money more efficiently.
Yeah. And I think those are the things that you talk about to allay those concerns
Yes.
as much as you can. I know that. I mean, we've talked about regionalism in so many ways.
Yeah.
This is something that is, you've taken your time to pull it all together, and now it's time for the community. And that's why I think we're offering what we think could be a good vehicle for you here is maybe consider doing an open
Appreciate
house.
it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Anything else? Thank you so much, Danny, for all of that, and good luck on your surgery. Okay, let's move on to financial considerations in strategic planning. This is Town Manager Guthrie and Finance Director Brittany Earls are going to present this topic. This is, we've been talking about this a lot. This goes along to somewhat what Fire Chief Johnson was talking about is real concern of the kind of legislation we're seeing being talked about in our state legislature at potentially reducing revenues to our municipalities around the state. So, Susan.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do have Brittany here. If y'all start delving too much into deep details, she's here as backup. So thank you, Brittany. All right. So what we are seeing is a lot of legislative bills being floated that could be catastrophic for our community. And I presented a portion of this to the council during strategic planning, and I was asked to bring it here so that we could have more conversation, but also so a broader audience could hear it, because we're actively fighting a lot of these bills, but we're one entity. We need everyone on board if we want to maintain our quality of life. So I want to start a little bit before this slide, in that we've seen over several years a lot of bills that are starting to limit municipal revenue streams. And very important that we have a diverse revenue stream. So when different things happen in the economy or in a community, one revenue stream will, take help fill the gap for another one. So when you start plucking revenue streams away, it really puts a lot of pressure on those that are left. So a couple of years ago, the legislature voted to take away our ability to charge tax on rental properties. It was a tool that many, many communities had. It was just one revenue stream. That costs our community about $150,000 a year. It doesn't sound like a lot, but that's a police officer and a vehicle each year. So, right there, that's off the top. Last year, there was a big fight over food tax. We were able to reach a negotiation with the legislature, which allowed people who had it to keep it because we're dependent upon it. So we're going to fast forward now to this year. I have this slide, and I'm not going to go over it a lot, but it kind of illustrates all the different ways that we're losing revenue. So each time a new municipality is formed, our portion of state shared revenues is reduced. So Santan Valley just incorporated, they're a big city right off the bat, over 100,000 people. So our share of state shared revenues this year will go down so far by $14,000 a year. Again, doesn't sound like a lot, but when you keep adding up all of these cuts, it's significant. So a couple of the bills that we're following right now, I said we negotiated an agreement with the legislature last year on a good compromise about food tax. Well, it's back again this year. Even though we had this agreement, another bill was filed. And when you see, so this is House Bill 2839, and you see beside it HCR 2018. So this is something we're seeing more and more of, because bills that are really detrimental to municipalities, our governor tends to veto. So the legislature, I think, has picked up on that. So when they're running bills that they think she may veto, they're doing an HCR, which basically forces it to be on the ballot. Sounds like a great thing. Let the voters decide. The problem is not every community has food tax. So there's a lot of communities who are, very easily will vote against having a food tax. So on this one, this would cost us about $50,000 a year. Again, we don't have a grocery store. That's why it's pretty low number for us. But when you add that to the 150 and the 14, again, really starts adding up. So we are actively working with the League of Arizona Cities and Towns. We've written our legislators. We're scheduling a meeting to talk about the impact of these continual attacks on municipal funding streams. So the next one is incredibly frightening. It's House Bill 2290. It's getting a little complicated, but basically this bill will redo the way sales tax is charged. Right now, if you order something online, you all get my newsletter. I'm always like, shop online. And the reason I say that is because we get the sales tax. This bill, House Bill 2290, would redo the way we get sales tax. So instead of us getting the sales tax on something you buy from your home and it gets delivered to your home, the distribution center location will get all the sales tax. So clearly we don't have an Amazon distribution center here. So all of your sales tax you're paying would go to the city where the Amazon warehouse is instead of coming to the town. The financial risk to us, is between $450,000 and $500,000 a year. That's the half the budget of our police department. I mean, this is catastrophic. I don't know how else to say it. Is this bill would just devastate our municipal budget. Next one. You're not depressed enough already. So tax conformity, I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but there's a lot of changes at the federal level that then come down to the state level that we're waiting to see how they implement those federal rules. There's also a lot of things that were in the big, what's the word, big budget? What is it again?
Big beautiful bill.
That one. There's a lot of changes that happen there that are going to cut funding to the state. And so we're also waiting to see what portion of those are they going to pass through to us. So there's a huge risk for us. The potential revenue loss for us is about $500,000 a year. So I'm going to do a little financial summary and then mention a few other bills. So right now, our exposure is over $1 million for the bills. And I'm only telling you about the worst of the worst. There's a lot of other bills that could harm us. These are the worst of the worst. But over $1 million, again, that's our complete police department budget. That's not, that's not allowing us any longer to do all the work we've done on preventative maintenance on our streets. That doesn't allow us to do things like Selma Mangini Park. That doesn't allow us to maintain the cemetery decently. It will hit every aspect of our budget. It is really a massive threat. Our general fund is only around 7 million. So you're talking about almost 20%, 18 to 20% of our general fund budget will be gone if these bills pass. So just a couple other bills. I added these after the fact because bills are dropping every day and we're trying to analyze them as they're dropping to determine their impact on us. House Bill 4030. This is probably one of the most egregious bills I've ever seen in my career. And you see there's an HCR on this as well. So we can't rely upon the governor vetoing this, but basically it would place a 4-year moratorium on any fee or tax increase unless it's taken to the voters with 60% approval. So right now, we just spent $2 million on repairing a 100-year-old sewer line. We have an upcoming renovation of the wastewater plant that has to be done to reach new regulatory requirements. The list goes on and on. This would prohibit us from raising wastewater or any fees for 4 years. I'm sure as a taxpayer, that probably sounds great. But if we want to sustain the quality of life that we have here, this will absolutely decimate us. There's no way that we could keep those systems operating with no fee increases because everybody who supplies us, the pipes that we use, the chemicals we use, every single thing that we're supplied with is increasing incrementally every single year. So how are we supposed to keep our systems running when everybody around us is increasing our costs? Health insurance, risk insurance, every single cost is increasing, but we wouldn't be able to pass those on to our ratepayers. So catastrophic.
And it would then have to be paid out of general fund, which we already have the other side, which is another $1 million that would be reduced.
Right. So then Senate Bill 1431, it's less of a financial thing, but I always want to mention all these bills that are just horrid for municipalities. Senate Bill 1431 would remove our municipal right to any design standards or architectural review for new projects. And you guys remember that this last legislative session, they removed our right to have public hearings for design review. So we no longer can. It has to be staff reviewed. So we actually have a meeting coming up with P&Z who are going to help write some guidelines for our staff members to do those reviews. Well, this bill will remove any ability at the staff level or the public hearing level to do any review of architectural or design review. So it's just another example. I think, over the last couple of years, I've talked about these risks of taking away municipal authority. And it's really frustrating because we just did our community survey and it was overwhelmingly positive. And we can't sustain that if we take away all of our revenue streams. So, I feel like our voters elect a council and you ask them to do particular things, maintain the streets, have nice parks, make us feel safe. Our public safety score blew away our benchmarking with the national average because it was so high. But there's a reason for that. We have a great police department with good equipment. You take away all these funding streams, we can't do that anymore. So you're right to tell your council what services you want and at what level will be gone. And that's the state dictating to the cities and to the voters what you can and can't do with your community. So, along with the airport issue, I can't stress enough, you have got to write letters, you've got to communicate with your legislators that you want this level of service. You want good streets, you want a good police force, you want nice parks, you want us cleaning up the roads and keeping things in the community as well maintained as possible. And the only way that's going to happen is if your elected representatives understand that that's what you want. Because right now they think they know what the community wants and they're taking away every right of the council to make those changes and those decisions, that you've asked for. So I'm gonna get off my bandstand, sorry, my soapbox, but I hope you feel my passion for this, that I've never seen anything like this in my career.
Yeah.
And it will devastate this community and our way of life.
And what because we've highlighted this with all three of our legislators for this district, that's Senator Fincham, Representative Bliss, and Representative Gwen. And I said in my ending of my comments to them, and we are attempting to get a meeting with them, and it is not an easy task because we need to see them face to face so they can tell us why they, in particular Senator Fincham, why he is the one who authorized on the Senate side the food tax bill. He's the one authorizing, he's the author of that one, which is very disappointing to us. It has been held in committee, but that doesn't mean much at this moment. But I said we cannot raise sales tax or local property tax enough to cover the potential loss of these other revenues, partially because none of us in this room want to see that happen. And we are also constitutionally limited by how much we can raise those. So we can't even begin to raise any extra dollars to cover these laws. And when the legislature will say back to you things like, well, then we'll say you have to pay for public safety first. I got it. So if you want to do that, we'll take from all of our other general fund areas that we cover, and we will still have to reduce public safety to make up that difference. So it doesn't really matter. You can mandate this, you can mandate that. We have to take from something, and our biggest department is our public safety. So if we lose these revenue streams, we don't know how we're going to pay for it. I want to know, how do we pay for it? I can't grow money on trees. I can't come back to to all of you and say, how about a few more pennies for sales tax? We already have a 9.3% sales tax rate. I can't say, let's raise our property tax. We're limited by doing that, and we don't like to do that in this town. We just don't like to raise our sales tax rate if we have to. That's something we've been really cautious about. We have to tell our legislators today, please stop taking money out of the things we want to have the quality life we believe we want, we know we want in our town of Clarkdale. And this is not just for Clarkdale, this is for all the municipalities, but I'm talking about the impact to us. Any other comments?
I'd like to thank Town Manager Guthrie and the mayor and the rest of council. We did strategic planning this week. There was not a huge attendance. Not everybody wants to sit with us for 6 hours and go over the nitty gritty of what it takes to make decisions about the town. But this is one of the things that came up. And I want to applaud them because especially Town Manager Guthrie has been really at the forefront of making sure that these issues are being addressed on the state level and making sure they are on the agenda for not only us as a community, but our neighbors and for the Arizona League of Cities and Towns to be able to really address what is going on and the devastation that it will have. Imagine if we lost $1 million from our general fund and then lost money, you know, the ability to raise fees to run the wastewater system. So the money that we would normally get through the fund that pays for that is gone. We now have to go into the general fund that is already decimated down by $1 million. And so, you know, and we're not a rich town. We're incredibly, I think, frugal. I think our staff works so hard to really make sure that we are fiscally sound. And so I asked for us to bring this to the public because I wanted everybody to know what the potential of what's going to happen. And this is happening. This is my 3rd year, and every year, and it just keeps getting worse. So, you know, write your legislatures, make phone calls, you know, look at what's happening on the, you know, down in Phoenix at the Capitol. And because we all need to be paying attention and we all need to be communicating what this will do for us. One of the conversations I had when Ruben Gallego was running for Senate with him at some event thing, and I thanked him because he called the town before he was a senator to ask, was there any kind of legislative bill that he could put through for us and to help us. And I said to him, I said, thank you. I appreciate that you are concerned about us. And he said, you guys can't tax your way out of this. You guys are surrounded by federal land. You can only grow so much. Even if next week there was housing permits for every single piece of lot in town to build a house, we can't tax our way out of this. And we do our best to try to do that. And to be responsible with that. So I feel like I'm just rambling now. So thank so
That's
thank you.
okay. It's all public record.
And I think it's just true that we really have worked really hard. And I've lived in Clarkdale 20 years. I remember what it was like when I moved here. We had no money. We had no ability to do anything. And we really worked to be responsible and to be responsive to the community and the things that the community wants. So thank you.
Any other comments? I appreciate the briefing that we have and share the information out there. And we do have in March, on March 17th, lunch with the council. Both Vice Mayor and I are having lunch here. You're welcome to come, and we're going to talk about our budget here, so that we will share with you what where we propose to spend all of our dollars, but also for you to tell us, are we on the right track? We think we are, but I always like to hear from all of you. So that's in the e-newsletter that goes out. That'll be March 17th, and I think it's going to be in the Ladies Lounge here at the Clark Memorial Clubhouse. So come and join us for that discussion. And hopefully by then we will have a few more enlightened legislators. Hard to say. I agree with Councilmember Jones, I've never seen it this overwhelming on all of us on so many fronts. There were over 1,800, just to tell you, over 1,800 bills that were introduced in the legislature this year. It's the largest number they've ever seen. They've even had to amend their numbers on their legislative bills to accommodate it. So I don't know where all these ideas keep coming up or why they're coming up. Nobody has been able to tell us what's driving all of this. We know there are things that are hurting everyday people. I am well aware of that. Cost of housing is not pretty in the state of Arizona. We're seeing food prices, we're seeing our daily expenses continue to go up. I understand that. But on the other side, we want services in our town. And it doesn't magically happen by cutting staff or spending less in that area. We've worked hard, as we've talked about, to make sure that we're spending our dollars wisely. We have an incredible staff that over three plus almost 4 years has brought in millions and millions and millions of dollars in grants so that we can have a wonderful Selma Mangini Park, so we can have our roads upgraded, and we are doing some things like repairing sewer lines that are crumbling, our 100-year-old sewer lines that are crumbling. And we have some roads that need sidewalks. Oh, Clarkdale Parkway and Cement Plant Road. That's millions of dollars our staff is bringing in to get them designed and built. So they're spending every moment of their every day working hard to make sure the dollars that we have today are being leveraged well to be able to do those things. But if we don't have those resources, we can't do all of that. I'm going to be very honest about that. We can't do all of that. So enough putting that out there. It's going to be great. We're going to make it through it. We'll work hard. We're out there, but I need all of you to also talk to our legislators with us. Anything else as we go on? Okay, thank you. Enough of that tonight. Let's move on. We have a public hearing, which is much easier to do at the moment. Item 6D is a public hearing on resolution 1751, which is updating town fee and schedules for parks and recreation and public works. So I think Charity Brooks is presenting this one to all of us. So this is a public hearing. We have 2 items back to back here. This is for the public to comment on that. We'll close public hearing, and then we will go to the next item, which is the adoption of the resolution. So it's yours.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and council members. This item is being brought to you. It looks like Parks and Rec and Public Works had just a few minor fee updates that they wanted to implement. Parks and Rec was focusing on resident and non-resident fees for cleaning and reservation of the gazebo. And then Public Works has some they want to remove their sign fees. And then just a wording change in one of our descriptions on our fee schedule. So as part of the fee adoption process, a notice of intent was posted by our town public information officer on the town website on October 28th of 2025. And additionally, the notice of intent was placed on town social media platforms on December 17th of 2025. There's no newspaper requirements prior to the adoption of the fees, but after the adoption of the resolution, then there will be a newspaper requirement. And the fee changes will be effective upon adoption. So with that, if you have any questions, I'm willing to answer any questions for you.
No, that means we're in public hearing. This is my last political comment. You know, we talked about putting a moratorium on fees. would be everything we do. So all of these fees we're doing tonight would also be affected by that kind of legislation also, so that we couldn't do these incremental fee adjustments that we need to do periodically without going to the voter with 60% approval rating. This is public hearing. If you have any comments on this, you're welcome to come up to the microphone and state your name, and if you're a Clarkdale resident, and make any public comments. Okay. Nobody online? Okay.
No, Mayor.
Okay, I see no one coming up to the microphone, so we'll close the public hearing and we'll move on to 6E, which is the resolution itself, 1751, updating town fee schedule for Parks and Recreation and Public Works. Any further comments or questions for Charity? Yes.
Thank you. I just want to commend the people who put the fee schedule together, especially on the Parks and Rec fees. I noticed that the ambassadors went up $2. We did all that work on making sure that the use of the clubhouse covered itself so that the general fund wasn't sponsoring anybody's parties here. So thank you for updating that and giving the ambassadors a raise.
Thank you. Any other comments? Yes, Lisa.
Just to tack on, not only are we not sponsoring any parties, but Clarkdale resident parties are cheaper because we did adjust the rates to make it easier for Clarkdale residents to rent these buildings and spaces.
Right, correct. Yes.
There was a question previously about why we're removing the fee for a private road street sign. And the reason why is because we just have the private road people, they buy their own signs, so we don't provide them. They would go, and if we assist them, then it's just a reimbursement of the cost. So there's not an actual fee.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you. Anything else? I'm not seeing any other comments, so I'll entertain a motion.
Madam Mayor, I move that we approve Resolution 1751, updating the town fee schedule by setting fees for Parks and Rec and Public Works, and authorize the mayor and town clerk to execute all documents.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Councilmember Babbitt Pierce to approve Resolution 1751 as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you so much, Charity. Let's move on to item F, which is 6F, which is Town Engineer Services Request for Qualifications, Submittal Consideration. And Town Manager Guthrie is going to speak to this.
Okay, and I'm handling this because we've sent Lou to Phoenix to testify at the Senate tomorrow. So I'm just going to handle his item. So as you know, we have a contract with Ardura Engineering for our engineering services. It's probably one of the best things that we've done because it really has moved forward all of our projects really quickly, and also a lot of planning projects that are helping us plan long-term into the future. Their contract is expiring, and so we issued an RFQ for bids for these services. In the middle of that process, we were about to come to you to award the bids, award the contract, but we have an EPA grant that's $1 million grant, and we started getting some questions from the EPA about our RFQ process, the last one. We were able to work this out, but we had a few sleepless nights worrying about, are we going to get our reimbursement on the grant? So we hired an external attorney who has some expertise in federal procurement and federal contracts. They made some recommendations of how we could improve our RFQ, and our contracts. So instead of moving forward with awarding those contracts, we're asking you to reject all bids. And then we're going to reissue the RFQ with these amendments. And we did work with Ardura to extend their current contract so that we don't have a lapse in any contracts with our engineering firms. But we will reissue the RFQ where it's underway right now. And we did agree with Ardura to extend their contract by 4 months to give us the appropriate amount of time to work through the RFQ process. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Okay. Any questions for town manager? This is pretty straightforward. It just makes us more comfortable with our RFQ process and that we're doing it right so that we kind of check the box with the federal government when we have these particularly federal grants. But it cleans up everything. It makes it compliant with state and it helps us also.
And with we have several grants, and we just want to make sure that we're doing absolutely everything to make those reimbursement requests go smoothly. So we don't want any little gray areas. So that's what we're trying to do here.
And I don't want you to have any more sleepless nights.
Thank you.
Okay, any questions for Town Manager Guthrie?
No. Would you entertain a motion?
I sure will.
Madam Mayor, I move that we reject all submittals for the Town Engineer Services request for qualifications FY26 PW01, allowing for the request for qualifications to be reissued with recommended revisions.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilmember Babbitt Pierce and seconded by Councilmember O'Neill to reject all submittals for the Town Engineering Services request for qualifications as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you so much for that. Okay, let's move on to item 7, which is possible vote to enter into executive session. The council may vote to discuss the following matters in executive session pursuant to ARS Section 38-431.03A3, discussion or consultation for legal advice with the attorney or attorneys of the public body, and Section 38-431-03A4, discussion or consultation for legal advice with the attorney or attorneys of the public body in order to consider its position and instruct its attorneys regarding contracts that are the subject of negotiations. The item on executive committee this evening is Yavapai Apache Nation water settlements. So I will entertain a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
Okay, is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and seconded by Councilmember Jones to enter into executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, we are in executive session at 7:38 PM. Thank you, and we'll be back at the conclusion of this session. Are we ready? Okay, we are back in we are resuming our regular meeting at 8:11 PM. This is the item under discussion is the Yavapai Apache Nation water settlements, and I will entertain a motion.
Okay. I move that we approve Resolution 1752, a resolution of the mayor and town council of the town of Clarkdale, Arizona, approving the Yavapai Apache Nation water rights settlement agreement dated June 26, 2024, including Exhibit 16.1.2.3, agreement with the town of Clarkdale, authorizing the execution of such agreements and authorizing implementation by the town manager and the mayor.
Okay, is there a
Town
second?
clerk?
I'll second.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Hunsetter and second by Councilmember Jones to approve Resolution 1752, the Yavapai Apache Nation water settlements. as presented. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you so much. Future agenda items, Charity has our wonderful list of future agenda items. It looks pretty like not much, but I'm sure things will get added. If there's, are there any other items for the agenda? Future agendas? Hearing none, I will take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved by Councilmember Babbitt Pearson, seconded by Vice Mayor Hunsetter to adjourn the meeting at, what time is it? 8:13 PM. All those in favor say aye. All those opposed? Hearing none, motion carried. Thank you all for a very long afternoon and evening, but it was good work. Thank you.